It's good to be here. This morning I was busy unblocking an effluent system, so this is much preferable to doing that. I did have a small PowerPoint. I don't know. There we go. Cool. Thank you. So basically, what I'm going to talk about today is the sort of results of our rural broadband survey that we do every year. We've just completed it, and a few other bits and pieces, thoughts based on that. So just some basics on the survey. We run this every year. There's standard questions on internet connections, mobile coverage, landline service, and we usually have some special questions each year that vary on a particular topic. This year, those questions related to cybercrime experiences on farms. It's an online survey with a GIS component, so people are able to click their location as they're filling it in, and this enables us to sort of come up with all sorts of cool little maps all over New Zealand showing various things. This year the survey was run 25th of August to 8th of September, so very fresh. So I don't have any of those maps just yet. And it was a bit of a challenge this year. Lockdown, we had these plans in place to try and reach out to those people that have really poor internet and ways we could go about getting them to fill it in. Unfortunately, thanks to lockdown, that proved too difficult to do. We received 1,083 responses, which is pretty. Usually we get over 1,000 responses each year, and I believe this is about the 4th year we've run this now, so we're starting to get some good background information on it. And again, good geographic coverage of rural New Zealand, and also good representation of farm types. Particularly good to note, we had a few more responses from Gisborne this year. Normally on our maps, Gisborne's sort of a bit of a black hole, maybe suggesting really poor internet up there, but we got some good responses this year, so that's good. So if we go to the first slide. Right, so some simple things. Internet connection to the farm, 51% use wireless broadband. It's up 1% on last year, and it's the predominant type of connection, and it has been over the time we've run the survey. There's still 1 in 4 that rely on a copper line for internet connection, and that ties in with 70% who indicated they still have a landline. Now, it's been growing up 1% since 2019. Now, we did get some feedback. A number of respondents commented they'd really like to switch to wireless, but it wasn't available to them for reasons they supposedly didn't understand or they accepted. So there is a demand out there, and I think that there's a bit of a challenge, I guess, for certain farmers being able to access it. They know it's somewhere out there, but how do they get it? Another interesting thing is unlimited monthly data plans are now the most prominent amongst farmer respondents. We saw an increase of 10% on the uptake of unlimited monthly data, with a similar drop of uptake in the other plans, the plans below 100 gig. So that's good to see. And I think that started during the first lockdown last year, where a number of companies improved the availability of data for people, and it's good to see that that's carried on as well. Now, the majority of farmers never exceeded their monthly data cap at 52%. Obviously, they don't have a 12-year-old and a 10-year-old like I do, and we're seeing a 4% decrease in those that never exceed their monthly data caps. That's good, because often it has been the challenge that farmers have very small little, historically very small little data caps, and they'd be going through them pretty quickly, and then they'd be on effectively dial-up speed for the rest of the month. So yeah, it indicates that we've had a bit of a change over the years. In terms of and speeds, sorry, yes. So we're still seeing very slow speeds. I think this is a slight improvement on last year, but it's still not great that only 65% are getting internet within the 0 to 20 megabits range. And yeah, it's sort of showing that things haven't moved that far in terms of the ability to get more speed on farm from the internet. And there's also, on a perception side, 31% sort of indicated that they felt their internet connectivity had gotten worse, with comments around bandwidth capacity was an increasing problem. More people are out there using the same infrastructure, sort of meaning that there's a worse service for everyone. And it was, not just a situation of those enduring slow speeds, observing speeds getting slower, but also those in higher speed bands noticing that their internet connections had become less reliable as well. Many of those indicating that their internet connectivity had not changed did comment that they continued to deal with issues around reliability of connections, and also felt that there was a sort of lack of effort to improve the situation. Only 8% felt that their internet connections or speeds had improved. In terms of mobile coverage on the farm, basically, 95% of our respondents indicate they have a mobile phone. Smartphones are the mobile of choice, with 95% of the previous 95% having a smartphone. I'm not sure who that 5% is that don't have a smartphone, because I'm not sure you can buy them anymore, but you must be able to. And yeah, it links in with what we've asked questions in the past around what they use them for, and obviously there's a multitude of apps for on the farm. For my own example, we've got the milk monitoring at the cow shed. There's the Fonterra app, farm mapping, a whole range of things we use on the phone to help with the running of the farm. So they are becoming a very useful tool, and also particularly for communication, letting everyone in the team know where you are. Now 4G is the dominant spectrum accessible on farms at 61%. Good to see that those indicating 2G and 3G is the best they can access on farm have reduced by 5% and 6% respectively since 2019, with 4G and 5G increasing at the same rate. 5G is still pretty low at less than 5% of respondents, but then it is much newer and has a small coverage area per site than the others. Increased access to 4G and 5G by respondents is likely a product of network upgrades to mobile towers around the country. Now, 1 in 3 farmers have mobile coverage from 0 to 50% across their farms. I'm sorry, I lost where I was, but it looks like this has been addressed with a 15% reduction in respondents indicating that this was the case, 15% less reduction indicating this was the case in previous years. The most farmers have the dominant band is 75 to 100% coverage on the farm, which is up at 38%, which is a big change from 0 to 25% being the dominant band for mobile coverage in 2019. So that's a good improvement that that really small area has, or those that have got a really small coverage on their farm that used to be the dominant thing, now it's up the 75 to 100, which is good. Signal strength, it's improving as well. Most of the people comment that they're getting 3 to 4 bars on their mobile phones on farm in the good spots. And yeah, those that getting 4 bars, that's up 6%. On the perception side of mobile coverage, in the last 12 months, 20% indicated that theirs had declined, with many pointing to reliability issues, likely arising from towers sort of reaching their sort of design capacity for mobile calls and data. This has sort of been particularly galling for those that may have relied on mobile broadband as a backup for on the farm. 72% indicated no change, and only 8% indicated mobile service had improved. 3 in 4 farmers indicate they use a smartphone to support the farm business, a 15% increase. And 62% of them rate the app's usefulness at 8, 9, or 10 out of 10, which is really good to see. 58% of farmers use cloud software to support their farm business, which is a 10% increase since 2019. So again, as I mentioned earlier, it's sort of showing the importance of connectivity on farm for running a business. Just to sort of mention with the landline service, still 69% have a landline to the farm. This obviously still viewed as important. Obviously, mobile can be patchy, so a lot of people do like to have that landline backup. But yeah, the concern is 50% rated as poor average, and I'll touch on that later in the sort of thoughts I had. So just on the cybercrime questions, I think that might be on the next slide. If we've got the next slide. Oh, no, back one. Oh, I covered that anyway. Yeah, okay. So over 52% have farmers had experienced cybercrime. So the dominant one was robocalls, dodgy calls to their landline or mobile is the predominant one experienced by farmers. And fake invoices came in at a distant second place at 17%, with the rest being 10% or less. So 77% indicated they've experienced cybercrime within the last 12 months. I think that's of the 52%. And sorry. Here we go. 70 going at this. So it does sort of represent or suggest that cybercrime is becoming a very current experience on farms. I was surprised at the fake invoice one being so low, because it's probably the predominant one I've been hit with. Those fake NZTA ones are especially very hard to spot, and there's a number of times where I've thought, oh, I didn't realize the RUC was up and almost about to pay it, and oh, better not do that. So that's an interesting one, particularly as more and more people get invoices via email. Not many doing them on post anymore, so that's a real risk out there, I think. Now 40% had indicated that they'd reported it. It seems quite low, but I guess when it's robocalls, sort of dodgy calls being the predominant one, for most of us, well, me in particular, usually I can spot them pretty quickly and I just automatically tell them to piss off. So there's generally not much of a point of reporting it to the police. But yeah, there was 1 in 5 people indicated they had lost money or nearly lost money as a result of the cybercrime. Now, we haven't had a chance, it's still new, to go through all the comments and really dig in deep and get some further insights, but that's sort of a top level view of it all. So if I go to the last slide, and yeah, so just, I guess, some thoughts and I guess concerns, opportunities we see, and from doing the survey, but also talking to farmers and experiencing it, of course, myself, and in the conversations we've been involved in. So with the rural network capacity, we're seeing an investment in rural connectivity come online. It's been happening, but we haven't seen it, enough of it yet to see that it's making a difference, or a noticeable improvement for most farmers. The slow pace and rollout of RBI2, we don't think, doesn't feel like that's helping at all. A lot of farmers are telling us the services stayed the same or declined in the last 12 months, with a smaller percentage saying it's improved. So it does feel like everything's sort of standing still to a degree. A lot of farmers are commenting that their services degraded as residential subdivision developments go in nearby, or as more people move to the rural area. Yeah, there's some good, some bad there. As you get a bit more investment in some of these areas, there is less patchy coverage and better value for communications for the customers. But yeah, it's a bit of a mix and match at the moment. We know after the 2020 COVID lockdown, rural demand for connectivity is growing as online meetings are becoming more increasingly common, and the needs for the farm business increasingly rely on conducting their business online for regulatory obligations and just standard old business of paying the bills, etc. And demand, particularly during lockdown, is even greater. When you've got the kids at home, they're doing the schooling online, and that placed, particularly during the 2020 lockdown, that really placed quite a big demand on a lot of rural networks. Probably we didn't hear so much about it in this lockdown, and possibly it was, I'm guessing maybe because it was springtime, and so for all those kids that came back to the farm, they probably got put to work helping out in the farm rather than, but they did a mix of schooling and farm work, particularly on that busy time. So maybe there wasn't quite the same, amount of kids sitting around watching YouTube when they were supposed to be studying, etc. In terms of the rollout of RBI2, we think accelerating that rollout is an essential first step. But then the question becomes, what more needs to be done to increase capacity in rural networks to handle demand into the medium and long term? So there's sort of three rough ideas here. Do we have a nationwide RBI3? Or do we have a more targeted investment towards regional WISPs, erecting sort of more bespoke rollouts, or is it something else entirely?
Andrew, can you wrap it up in about 30 seconds?
Yep. I'll just quickly touch on the satellite networks. So we recently met with Starlink, and that's possibly going to be quite a good solution for a number of really remote farmers, and they're very keen to sell predominantly to rural. That's where they want to focus on. It's strange that they've got demand from town, but as they put it, they think they're just Elon Musk fanboys that want to buy it for some strange reason. But you know, that's potentially going to be a solution for many, but still too new to register in this this survey. So yeah, that's sort of the high level from the survey. So hope you pick something up from there. Thank you.
Well, at least Andrew picked up a great deal from that. Thank you very much. We are going to do some questions after the next couple of speakers. So if you have got things in mind, back to that Q&A function. But Andrew, before you go, there are some folks who have asked whether or not this data is more widely available. Will you or the Feds be releasing this data that you have there?
I will check in with the team. I know we eventually get around to make it into a proper report, and I'm not quite sure whether we actually do anything with it, apart from give a free copy to the minister and the